Welcome to Thriving Moms of Autistics podcast, a free resource for moms raising young autistic children. I am your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. I created Thriving Moms of Autistics after years of experience working with families and having my own autistic child. I coach moms of young autistics one-on-one to tap into their strengths, create a supportive community, set firm boundaries, and raise their autistic child with confidence. Subscribe to the podcast and check out the earlier episodes so you don't miss a thing. Now, let's get to it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Thriving Moms of Autistics podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. So Franklin D. Roosevelt once said, "The only thing that we have to fear is fear itself." Let that sit for a minute. Moms of Autistics are in high gear dealing with all the what ifs and all the fears. That's why most of us, and not all of us, are planners. We tend to be planners. And we scan a room for danger in less time than it takes the CIA. And this is what we do. And we have our stuff together because we can't afford to not, right? So that heightened state isn't going away. So what do you do? In this episode, I explore the challenges of living in this state and how we can make shifts for a more positive outcome. So find the full transcript for this episode on your favorite podcast app. And please share the podcast with other moms so they can grow on their autism journey too. And you can even further that reach by leaving a simple, quick review on Apple Podcasts, because then more moms are going to see it. I appreciate you. So what hinders among an autistic's growth as they progress and process these challenges? Fear is very real for moms raising autistic. This actually starts at the diagnosis, if not even before, but especially after the diagnosis, because you have these aha moments. We're fearing all the what ifs, which can be exhausting. Is he gonna be able to talk? What if he can't live on his own eventually? What will happen when I die? What if he elopes and he finds himself around water because he doesn't assess danger well? What if he gets bullied and he doesn't make friends? It's a lot. And how many times have you become fixated on any or all of those things, or even more things, right? Does it help you when that happens? No, it doesn't. And what benefits do you get from getting stuck in this? If you're getting stuck, it can't grow. That's the simple truth. So we worry because it feels like we have some control over something that is clearly so out of control. And that is the function of ruminating on things and continually going over it until we fall into that negative thought loop. However, it does not move the needle. We're just stuck, ruminating. And you remain stuck and unhappy, and it only furthers our frustration. So this is a must for moms, figuring out what to do with this. It is a must for your own emotional health. And as you know, that does overflow into your child when either way, it's going to overflow into your child. So that's why it's so important. And moms often stay isolated because we fear that others won't understand our child and our journey. And we tell ourselves it's just too hard dealing with people who don't get it. We aren't entirely wrong about that. It is hard. It's very hard. And my son always says, Mommy, you could do hard things. And he's right. I can. And so can he. We know it takes time and energy, to find those who do get it. We fear the thought of adding one more thing to our list, right? That is very real because we have a heavy load that we're carrying. And when we do nothing out of fear or just putting it off because our load is so heavy, we fail to grow. And that has lasting consequences. So when moms of autistics develop a learning mindset, they see beyond the challenge and the possibilities that exist. I'm going to say that again. When moms of autistics develop a learning mindset, they see beyond the challenge and the many possibilities that exist. So what does that mean? Well, we have all been there. We've been let down or disappointed when things did not turn out as we had wished. And count the times, right? Think back to feeling brokenhearted over the demise of a relationship with someone that you thought was the one. Or the job you didn't get after you worked so freaking hard. It doesn't make sense at the time. It does eventually, if we're paying attention. And it usually takes a while for that to happen. Now, there are those things where we'll never really know, and that's okay. But most of the time, it stops us right in the face later. So when you feel rejected, for someone who refuses to understand your autism journey, what can you do? You could be thankful that you moved on without them because they weren't a good fit for what your needs are. And in essence, this supports not only you, but it supports your child too. They don't need that negativity. So what can you do when you take the time to find others who do get autism? Okay, you can gain a support system that you can rely on. Isn't that beautiful? That sounds so beautiful. It is beautiful. It's easy to get stuck into feeling frustrated when things go wrong. And those shifts of perspective, they make all the difference. So Karen Dweck's The Power of Yet is a great tool, and I've talked about this before, but it really is a great tool to use during those challenging times when you find yourself drifting into negativity. Did you notice I said drifting? Look for the signs because you can catch yourself when you're aware and you're paying attention, okay? So instead of saying, no one gets it, say, no one gets it yet, but I'll find those who do. It's coming, okay? And so here's 3 tips for moms of autistics in developing healthier mental habits, okay? And that's critical. First is to identify. So when you're presented with these challenges, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? And that moment, what's your body telling you? What's your mind telling you? Okay? So increase that awareness by identification. The second is to recognize. Recognize it for what it is. It's hard. It doesn't feel good. But it doesn't have to stay that way, right? I have the power to move a needle. Say that with me. I have the power to move the needle. Right? I do, and so do you. The third is to replace. So take a minute to remind yourself, this will pass. Okay? It's a moment of time and it's temporary because you are resilient. I hope this has helped, and let's meet up again next week for another episode.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Moms of Autistics podcast. Be sure to leave a review and tell other moms of autistics about the podcast. Let's support each other. Find the full transcript for this episode at thrivingmomsofautistics.com. And be assured, you are not alone in your journey.